Inland Sports.
Join us here on the Inland Sports Show. He is the head football coach for Jurupa Hills, Citros Marinez. And Coach, I don't think I've ever asked you this, so I'm going to throw a curveball to start this interview. If you weren't coaching and you weren't teaching, what would you be doing right now?
I'd probably post it up in my backyard, man. It's like my little paradise, my favorite place to be. You know, when you're a head coach and you have to deal with all the drama, you have to go to your safe space. And that's my, that's my place where I go after a tough day, after a tough game, tough practice or whatever, and be like, all's right in the world, at least in this little area right there. So that's where you can find me for sure.
High school football has turned into this, 12-month, every single day, 12 months out of the year, kind of a high school sport with, lifting in the off season and spring ball and, going into 7-on-7 stuff. Do you get downtime, and what do you do to get downtime besides hang out in your backyard?
Yeah, you know what? I think it is. Recently, we went to a new rule in our district where the schools are all going on a 2-week mandatory. So basketball, volleyball, everything. So this is our last week here at Jurupa Hills, and then the whole school goes on dead for 2 weeks. So it kind of it's a good little thing that forces us to have to take a break and give the kids a summer. And so I'm really liking that, and hoping that it continues in the future. I think we all need it as we get into a long season. And, some of us are just, if they don't do it for us, then we're going to kind of feel the guilt of, man, we should at least be doing something right now. Back in the old school, the old school dead period, you could lift, but you couldn't practice. And so, it still meant that you were here or whatever. So I kind of like this way. It's been reduced from 3 to 2 weeks, but it's something that, the whole school, and my daughters are cheerleaders here. One plays basketball. So I pretty much live at the school. So for them to shut everything down at the school works in my favor right now.
Are you good at relaxing? So let's say, you go into dead period. You're going to take a family vacation. You're going to go to the beach, whatever. You're going to go to the movies. Are you good at unplugging, or are you always thinking, man, that week 0 game's coming up, or we got to work on the line, or are you always thinking something about Jurupa Hills football?
First of all, Pep, are you trying to set me up right now? Did my wife send you some questions or what?
No, it's the problem I face too. I can't relax. I can never relax.
Being present is definitely something that is a challenge for me. My mind does naturally go to the game. I'm one of them weirdos that relaxes on my couch and watches a coaching seminar on YouTube. It's one of my favorite things to do. Or the history of the wing tee is my latest watch. I love that kind of stuff. But I try to my best. It's definitely something that my wife has done a good job of getting us out of the house and traveling. And I've definitely seen the value of it and recharging. And so I'm getting better at it. We call that a growth mindset around here, Pep. So it's something that I need to do a better job of for my own health and obviously for my family, and making sure I have enough time for them as well.
Yeah, it sounds like your wife and my wife are very similar, and God bless them, right, to keep the families going and keep us sane, I guess.
For sure, my man.
So, Coach, let's talk about your football team. I know you lost some big-time players, some of the top players in the IE, but how do you like your squad going into this year? Who's back? Who looks strong on your team?
Yeah, first of all, let's talk about those guys that have left. They did a great job, and we're really proud of them. Jordan Napier just started at San Diego State last week, checked in, got his physical, did some running with them. Cam went out to Northern Colorado as well and is training with them. And Liddell Williams is over at the U of R. So we're really proud of our program, and being able to get kids to the next level is one of our main goals and one of our indicators of, doing things the right way around here. But obviously we have some big shoes to fill, and we're taking that as a challenge. We understand that those are really good football players, and we're challenging our guys right now, the guys in the room that have played some varsity football and have got some time. It's like, hey, it's your time now. What are you going to do with your opportunity? We're talking that with the skill guys today and saying, hey, so there's so many plays you get in the football field. And we're showing them the numbers that Jordan and Cam had, as good as those guys were. It ain't old school where somebody's getting the ball 30 times anymore. They're getting the ball, 10, 15 times at the high end. And those are, D1 players. So And you get the ball around here, we expect you to do something with it. And the guys that break tackles, makes plays, are going to get the ball. So we're creating that competitive environment within ourselves and doing some other things with some schools to kind of see and let those guys kind of rise to the top.
Coach, as we go into the 2023 season, from the time you began your coaching career to where we're at right now, have you changed as a coach? Has the game changed a little bit? You talked about, you're not going to get a running back's not going to get like 30 carries in a game. Maybe that used to happen 20, 30 years ago. But has the game changed at all? Maybe even when you were a coordinator at Rev to where you're at right now? I mean, or do you approach it any differently as a head coach?
100%. It has changed. And I like to say, Pep, I've been coaching since the 90s, but it was 99 when I started. So I did have that year in there back when I was a volunteer freshman at Lucerna. But yeah, it has changed tremendously, the whole social media and the recruiting game and all that. And I tap into my, the older coaches that I'm very close with, Coach Bruick, obviously, both of them, and say, how do you I was just talking to Kurt yesterday and asking him, how does he deal with that changing tide and keeping them fresh? Because my goal has always been to do this for a long time. I've never, obviously I want to win a championship and all that, but I've always been like, I want to do this for 30 years. I like those guys and, create that stability in a program and build a culture and a coaching staff that, we grow up together. We raise families together. We see guys. I got a couple guys that played for us already. That's how long I've been in Jurupa Hills. The guys that have played for us are now back coaching. Another little metric we use is okay, we're doing, we're moving in the right direction. If you're going to be a good program, I really believe in that. So talking to guys like Coach Tessitore at Citrus Valley, Coach Zelaya was here during summer school. He teaches in our district. I was really getting some information from him and just trying to learn from my elders and to, make myself better from their experiences. Cause it is hard, man. I feel it, Pep. This is my 10th year as a head coach and the game has changed in my short time. And, the older guys probably laugh at me and be like, dude, what are you talking about? You've been coaching in the iPhone era or whatever, but I can still remember in 07 being all fired up because I figured out how to download the video onto my color iPod. And I was like, Coach B, we're going to watch film already. And now it's normal. You know what I mean? So we're getting the little AI camera installed at our stadium. I'm all fired up, giving Miss Braun and Miss Reed, our ADs over here, props for that. So, man, that's crazy, huh? You don't even need a filmer in the sky anymore, Feb. It's wild times.
So let me ask you this, Coach. So in 99, when you started coaching, were they still trading film on VHS or was it already digital?
Yeah. That's right, baby. I'm old school enough to remember driving to Los Alamitos, having all the tapes in the car and being like, all right, here's ours, here's yours. And remembering that's the other thing that really changed as in my coaching experience. You used to be tied to the VHS or the Landro as we had back in the day. And so you had to spend your time at school to watch film.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe I could beg Coach Brook to let me take a film home, but he wouldn't trust my young ass. I didn't have that privilege, right? So we would be at the school all night. And now, you have access to that film all the time. Your kids are watching it. Your coaches are watching it. So, you got to kind of move with the times and embrace the technology and see how you could adapt to it the best and make it best fit for your program. We still believe in meeting as a coaching staff on the weekends because I'm a big in-person guy. But I know a lot of guys who are successful doing the whole Zoom thing like we're doing right now. And, I think there's just many ways to kind of get it done.
Coach Marinez, who would you say in your stint as a head coach, who would you say going up against has always provided the biggest challenge in terms of, let's say you had a game plan going in there and you're like, oh my gosh, man, they figured it out. They got us. We're going to have to make adjustments or, because football is kind of like a chess match. You got a plan going in, you got to make adjustments. And who, have you coached against and you thought, man, this is a worthy adversary. This is a great coaching matchup. He's making me work. They had a great game plan too. How do we figure this guy out? How do we figure out this opposing team?
Man, you know what? That is something that really kind of That's like you said, that when you're thinking about football for so much, those are the matchups and the experiences. But as coming up as a coordinator with Rev, there's two names that come to mind right away, and that's Harold Strauss when he has all the NFL guys. But man, his scheme, it wasn't just hand the ball to Alan Bradford and those guys. It was like, hey, you got to deal with this double wing, single wing. Being like a football historian, like I love that. And it was like, okay, now you get to play some historical offenses with dudes that are going to go play in the league. So, being there with Coach Tess up into the wee hours of the night and Coach B trying to show me and tapping into, the Dick Brooks staff and getting them to teach us, that's really good. And then as far as like the spread game goes, and a coach that really taught me how to be better in defending the pass is Coach Steinberg, man. When he was at Miller, we used to go at it a lot, and he came at it with this whole 5-out approach. And, he definitely showed me with the weaknesses in my coverages, and he exposed them. And, he kept me up lots of nights trying to get better. And so I kind of take from all of those. Obviously, at my heart, I'm still a defensive guy, but Coach Brooke let me coach offense my last year at Rev. And then, I flipped over to this side of the ball as a head coach. And I always still think like that, you know what I mean? Like, what's going to keep that defense coordinator up at night? And can I take a little bit of what those guys taught me, along with many others? I can say that helped me be a better football coach.
Do you feel like it's dangerous to stay stagnant? Like you always want to be learning? I know there's coaching clinics and you guys all get together and that coaching fraternity, it's like a brotherhood. You guys share ideas and all that stuff. But do you feel like if you're staying the same, you're going to fall behind? Like you're always trying to evolve and learn more. It sounds like you're a real student of the game. You pick the brains of a lot of local legends, and like you said, you're always watching film and stuff. I mean, do you feel like you've got to always feel like you're continuing to improve as a coach and to be better?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's based upon your personality as a coach. I'm somebody that, I like there's guys that, that run a system, they run the double wing, or they run the run and shoot, or they run, an offense, and they get really good at it. And, there's nothing wrong with that, man. You get really good at something, how people are going to defend you, and you become just great. I feel like the difference comes in like, how do I practice it even better? You just gain your efficiency as you get to that mastery level of it. For me, I'm probably more on the other spectrum, Pep, where I like to do a lot of things and, challenge our kids and our coaches. The coaches will tell you on my staff, I drive them crazy because I'm constantly thinking about football. And sometimes I have to tell them like, sorry, or I won't text them on purpose on the weekend because I'm like, dude, I gotta give them a break. Like, I'm like a weirdo like that. But I definitely like to have. I'm more on the let's run, a little bit more than I'd rather have a little bit too much than not enough, so to speak. And again, that's a lot to do with how I was mentored by Coach B and those guys, and kind of taught me like that. That was the way I was mentored as a coach. So that's what I've taken on. But I know those guys that have been doing it for years and years and years. And, that's what they do, man. And those guys are not any easier to defend. So I just feel like, it's up to you as your coach and your personality. And, you just got to embrace it and build your program around that.
Well, Coach, I'm going to admit I didn't think we were going to hear the word run and shoot during this interview. That made me think of Warren Moon and those Houston Oilers teams, that run and shoot offense, man.
It's my YouTube algorithm, bro. You know what I mean? I just like whatever history is behind it. I'm down for some Mouse Davis or something like that. But we played Coachella Valley in 2019 playoffs, and they're pretty much a run and shoot team, man. Like that was the team that really knew what they were doing and throwing the ball, giving us quads and empty. And I'm just like, that was like the defense coordinator to me. I'm like, ooh, we get to play against this offense now. We get to play against that offense, and you get challenged with, we had to play that team that week. And then 2 weeks later, we're playing Almani in the double wing, smash mouth, no receivers, and then all receivers. So that's what I do like about high school football, is the variety and the differences. And it's definitely not as, vanilla as the higher levels are.
Yeah, I was to say, is that fun? Like, week to week, you're seeing different teams. Like you said, one week it might be a run-heavy team, and the next week it's a team that's going to spread it out, and they got an empty backfield. They don't like the running back. I mean, you never know, right? Like, especially in the playoffs, you know who you're going to run into. They might run a completely different offense.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's like our league is kind of built like that. So it's fun for me and I get engaged with it, but I'm sure my defensive coordinator, Coach King, doesn't like it because I'm over here just pouring stuff into his brain and talking. I feel like the old coaches now and talking about how we did it 10 years ago. We defend it. Here's the history behind this coach. Here's where he learned it from, blah, 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 blah. So I feel like all that matters, though. And the way I was taught is the way a coach and where a coach comes from and, you know, the way they learned it is going to play a lot into how they're going to run their football team. So we like to dive into that stuff too. But, you know, if you look at our league, we got Grand Terrace, you know, they're in the double wing, you know, with some Harold Strauss roots and Markham roots to them. And then you got, you know, Coach Matheny and the Fontana background and the power run game with them and the athletic quarterback they have now. And then you got Ike, who's like, you know, tearing it up in 7-on-7 and super athletic. So, like, you know, to win our league, you're going to have to be athletic enough to defend a spread team and physical enough to defend a power run team. So, like I said, that's what makes it fun. And, you know, as a coach, what you're worried about right now this time of year and what's keeping you up at night.
Well, Coach, listen, I always I always appreciate, you know, you giving us time here on the Inland Sports Show, and I always enjoy our conversations, even when I'm lurking in the shadows over here with the sun on me like this. But hey, listen, let's do this again. I hit you up because you guys were gonna do like a passing tournament, so maybe I'll still see you at some point this summer doing a little 7-on-7 action.
Yeah, no, for sure, Peppa. Thank you. I appreciate the time and I appreciate what you guys do for our game.
Yes, sir. That's Citros Marinez, the head football coach for Jurupa Hills. The Spartans getting ready for another big season coming up here on the Inland Sports.